What's up, y'all? You are tuned in to the Listen Up podcast. I'm your host, Jess, and it's time for you to listen up to what God has called you to do. Let's get it. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Listen Up with Jess podcast. I'm so excited that you decided to press play on this episode. This is going to be the final episode of the year, so you're tuned into a good one. I'm so blessed as I'm just reflecting over the year of 22. It has been a trying yet triumphant year for me. And if you're new to the podcast, I recently have been receiving new listeners, which I'm so excited joining the Listen Up fam. You know that my platform, I'm very heavy on just transparency around my story, things that God is doing, revealing and moving through me. And so I feel like I have taken you guys on a journey these last 3 years, going on 4 years of Listen Up with Jess podcast. And this season 5, I was stretched, y'all, like stretched to the max. Okay. And I was just looking and like kind of reflecting, looking at some, the episodes, and I'm like, wow, like season 5 and y'all only got 5 episodes out of me this year. And while I had a moment where I was just like going to beat myself up about that, I quickly paused and was like, Jessica, you're a human. You deserve grace and compassion. Y'all don't know what I've been through this year and everything that has transpired from the beginning of this year, the beginning of 2020, all the way into December has been honestly a nonstop emotional roller coaster. Emotionally, physically, mentally, all of the above, financially. I was stretched in this year. And I remember at the beginning, quarter 1, quarter 2, I honestly wanted to throw in the towel. I just really had, my hope was really dwindling, and I was just burnt out. But the beauty in it was that God was still moving in me and providing and giving me that provision and love and grace in the midst of my trials, to where he just gave me a just enough to keep on pressing, to keep my hand on him, right? And to keep my heart on him in the midst of the brokenness and sadness. And I went through a lot last year. I went through a lot this year. But as we're ending near the end of the year, I am very hopeful that God is about to do a new thing for me. And but it took me to go through all that to where I got to the breaking point where I realized that some things have to change. There's some things that I have to detach from, that while I didn't necessarily like ask for, like caused the trauma or asked for it or whatever, like God allowed it to happen. God allowed, these painful things to happen in my life, where I was still struggling very heavily with grief and having to process, health news and diagnosis and things like that, where it was just like I was really at a breaking point where I knew that God doesn't allow your pain to be in vain, and that as we continue to navigate and process the pain, we'll be able to repurpose it to where we're gaining something out of this pain, and we're turning the pain into gain, into fruitful gain, right? But in those in that process of healing and processing, we sometimes limit ourselves. Y'all, we sometimes limit ourselves. I remember back in October, I was, I don't know exact, I think I was driving a car, because that's where me and God I've most of my deepest conversations, revelations, all of that are in the car when it's just me and God, and I'm driving and I'm talking to Him, and um, He spoke something over me, and I was not yet ready to receive that, right? And y'all not gonna be ready. I was not ready to receive this word that He spoke over me, because I was just like, yeah, but right now it's it's keeping me like comfortable. So I'm not wanting to really receive this word, God. But yet I started speaking it over my friends. And I told my friends, like, I'm going to speak this word over you, but know that I am not practicing what I'm preaching right now. So I just know that this was something that did need to be shared. And I only spoke it when it was necessary, when I would hear stories from my friends. And then I'm like, ooh, that's where I need to drop that. I got to drop that line. I got to drop that word that God gave me. But I'm be honest with you, I'm not practicing what I'm preaching. And it's crazy now that we're at year end, and I am like at this space where I'm just like, I can't run from it anymore. I have um, to be able to practice what I preach and listen to what God has told me, and be able to make the adjustments and move forward, so that I can truly experience all that He has for me in my future. So, as we close to the end of the year, it's time for us to break up with some things that have been holding us back or hostage from really elevating or experiencing our best lives, our best selves. Um, it's really time for us to expose and release these bad habits that are no longer healthy. And it's hard because oftentimes we have a lot of history connected to the bad habits that we have, right? And so God has spoke to me. He was like, I was dealing with a friendship where it was just like kept going back and forth with this friendship, and I'm like, yo, like, I'm trying to sacrifice everything to really keep this friendship going, right? To really keep this person in my life. And at the expense of my like mental health, I felt like my emotional health, sometimes even my physical health, like I was like at the expense of that, because this relationship had so much history. And God spoke to me. He was like, history does not mean healthy. And I don't know who this is for right now, but you need to know that just because there's history connected does not mean that it's healthy. Oftentimes, whether it's a person, place, or thing, we are connected to it only because of the history and how it temporarily makes us feel or made us feel in the past. But that does not mean it's healthy for us in where we are right now and where God is trying to take us, where God is trying to deliver us. I've known people, I've even had this where I've stayed in something that was no longer healthy or suitable to who I am and who I'm becoming, especially who I'm becoming in Christ. But I only stayed, and I stagnate myself because of the comfortability of the comfortability and the history that I had with this person, or with this position that I was in, right? There is a lot of bondage that is connected to an unhealthy history with relationships, possessions, and positions, people. Y'all, like, we really, like, will, and I want you guys to understand, like, we will really sit here and try to justify why we are still connected to this unhealthy habit, person, place, or thing because, well, I've been friends with this person for 20 plus years, or I've been friends with this, or I've been doing this for 10 plus years, or, you know, I've been connected or affiliated with this group for 30 plus years, or with this organization, or with this, job for years, and we just have so much history, so it's hard for me to walk away. It's hard for me to just cut ties. And we build these unhealthy attachments to people, to possessions, like I said, to places, to things that we watch, digest, eat, everything. And these attachments allow us to stay stagnant. It allows us to stay stuck. We stay in bondage. And God was just like, Jessica, you're never going to really be able to fully like experience the freedom that I truly have for you until you're able to let some things go. Until you're able to release that attachment that you have with that person, with that thing, right? With that um with that job, like with that app, whatever the thing that it is, like you're not really going to be able, because you're allowing that thing to hold more weight than what I can give you, what I can allow you to experience in freedom and in peace and in God's fullness. And that's hard to have that conversation. I realize that just because you have years upon years of history, there are some things that have an expiration date. There are some things, there are some people that are really just seasonal, right? And that is a hard concept to grasp, I know, especially for those that I'm talking to that are very, that are empaths, or that have that, let's be honest, they have the abandonment wounds, where they struggle with abandoning and leaving things behind because they have now become codependent on the person, place, or thing, or they have been, like so attached to it that they feel wrong for walking away or stepping away or releasing something back that is no longer serving them, because they have to move forward in another direction. And it's a hard pill to swallow. It's a hard thing to process. I understand. But sometimes for growth, for elevation, it is necessary. And honestly, with your personal relationship with God, it is a requirement to make adjustments so that you can navigate and be able to navigate your life to where now you're allowing God to navigate your life on, okay, God, even if it makes me uncomfortable, I'm going to walk in the path of unknown. I'm going to walk in the path of uncomfortability. I'm going to walk in the path of newness, because I trust you along the way. But we get in the way of that because the history will literally blind you from God's best. Like the history on that thing, the history has you in a chokehold. I swear it had me in a chokehold. I swear it had me one. Like, I mean, I truly was just like I overly justified everything. Like, on why I should just keep fighting, and keep holding on. And then I realized that if my desire, right, if I have a certain goal or desire, for example, to experience a healthy and whole, like, romantic relationship, right? That's my heart's desire. And for it to when I say healthy and whole, and then for it to be a reflection of Christ, like I'm going to have to release the relationships that are not tracking in that direction. I have to I have to trust God enough that even if it felt, even in the past it felt good, and it felt, felt the history felt like home innocence, where I never had a real healthy version of what home looked like, right? When it comes to romantic relationships, when it comes to even just what I thought, what relationships look like romantically, even growing up. So it was the history of dysfunction, of distrust, of confusion, of miscommunication. That felt like home because it was comfortable and I was used to it. But that does not mean, just because it felt like home, doesn't mean that it was healthy for me and what I desire and want to go towards, if that makes sense. So I can't hold on to dead relationships that I know that are not going to, that it is not moving me into that direction of the desires of my heart, right? That are not being intentional in where I know how I deserve to be treated, how I deserve to be loved, how um, I want to love, how I want to treat them. Like if that's not reciprocal, then I have to pause and say, no, not just because we've been friends for years, or we've, been kicking it for years and this feels like, comfortable and home. That doesn't necessarily mean that that is healthy and that's what I should be doing. And I'm blocking what really God has for me because I'm allowing the history to hold me and keep me blind. Um, like literally, like blinding myself from what I really know. Like this is not God's best for me. But it felt like home. It felt good. It felt familiar. And I almost felt like I had to be loyal to the history. And I just want to free someone that is that feels like they're stuck, right? They're stuck financially, they're stuck emotionally, they're stuck physically, um, they're stuck spiritually, where they are in bondage due to bad habits, right? Unhealthy habits, unhealthy people, unhealthy work environments, um, unhealthy traditions that is not allowing them to experience God's best because they confuse the history with home and thinking that that was healthy and normal. That is not of that's not that's limiting yourself. And I know a lot of people that are struggling with this, where my heart grieves for those that are struggling to let go of that person because they're scared to hurt their feelings and because they've invested so much time. Let me tell you something. We may be in the waste your time ministry as as humans. We are, like, I'll be honest, I have been in the waste your time ministry. But let me tell you something. God is not in the waste your time ministry. There is nothing wasted in God's time. That He uses everything that we've gone through, that we've experienced. He uses that and He can really turn that into something that is going to now be your testimony It's going to be the thing that helped build your character. It's going to be the thing that helped deliver you. It's going to be that thing that's helps going to push you to that next level. But you're so focused on, but I did all of this. I invested all this time. So surely God doesn't want this to go to waste. And there's nothing that's going to go to waste with God being present and having his hand on it. What will happen is that we'll continue just to be stagnant and we'll never be able to experience, like I said, all that God has for us in the abundance that he has. Like if we really look and be like, man, like I serve a God of abundance. And I know with the relationships, you got that best friend that you've been, friends with since like second grade or third, or you've been friends since middle school, or you've been friends since high school. And you feel like, oh, I'm just so loyal to this person. Like I gotta keep, they my ride or die. Yet they don't have the same desires. They're not helping you elevate to where you need to go. And I'm not saying just drop kick your family and friends to the side, because that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that we serve a God of boundaries and not a God of bondage. Whew, Jesus, he's just speaking to me right now. Literally, we serve a God of boundaries and not a God of bondage. So what I don't want anyone feeling like they're stuck with something or someone because they have loyalty due to the history of something they've been doing repeatedly over and over. Like, that's a form of, it could be a form of addiction when you just can't let go. You can't shake this thing, this person. Like, versus, no, I'm going to create boundaries to help me balance, how I let this person, place, or thing come into my life, right? But I'm no longer going to allow it to hold me hostage. I'm not going to allow it to distract me. I'm not going to allow it to take over. But I'm going to make sure that it is properly placed and balanced. And whether that person needs to be, completely cut off, y'all know good and well, y'all in some situationships, you're in relationships, whole relationships, like out here trying to claim this knucklehead or this girl, trying to force them to be your person, and you know good and well you don't have the peace of God in this relationship, and yet you're only still there and dedicated to it and loyal to it because we have history. No, like, history is just it's almost laughable. The only reason I can laugh now because y'all, like, I'm truly in the midst of deliverance from this thing where I'm like, man, we limit God by telling him what we're going to do because of the attachment and history we have to something or someone, versus releasing and letting God say, have your way. Like, I trust you that you can give me exceedingly abundantly above all things I could ask for and have ever even experienced. Like, the word of God literally says, in Isaiah 43:19, it says, behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? Ooh, that part. Shall you not know it? I will even make a road in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. This word is straight from God in Isaiah, where he says, behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? Question mark. That's where it is. That part, I think, scares us when we say, shall you not know it? Because we as people, as man, we want to know everything. We're human. We're just human, and it's okay. We want to know everything. So why would I let go of something that, even though I know it's toxic, even though it's probably not healthy, even though it's not the best, I knows what I was getting into. So I'ma just park it and stay right there because it's comfortable. Versus being able to like step out on faith and really be like, okay, God, I don't know what the new thing is, but I know you, and I know who the provider of the new thing is. And where the second part of the verse it says, I will make a road in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. This is where it's breaking down what is able to spring forth, is where God can do amazing things in the unknown. But we have to trust him enough to let go of the known things that have not been healthy for us, that are not pushing us, that are not elevating us to our best selves, and not elevating us closer to the kingdom and to the desires of our hearts, right? Like, I know we don't have the desire just to be in mediocre, jobs and relationships and careers and friendships. He wants to push us to do great things for his kingdom, for his work. And so as I'm closing the end of the year, I'm just like, God start introducing me to new things, new people, new connections, where I'm just like, mercy, God, I hear you. In order for me to really receive all that you have for me, I have to let go of the things that have been holding me back, of the things that in the season was good for me. I felt like it was good for me. I needed it. I'm not going to knock it, where I think every person that I've ever connected with, every relationship that I had, it was not, none of them, I'm not going to trash nobody. Like, I don't trash none of my exes, because for what? Like, it's so necessary. I know I've had some pretty, excuse my French, shitty experiences. But I also have had some beautiful experiences as well, to where God just repurposed every painful relationship into healthy perspective, into growth. And yes, it is tiring. I know we're on the hotline like, God, in 2023, I don't need another hard lesson. I do not want to be on your toughest soldier list. I get it, yo. Like, when I tell you, yo, I'm done with that. Like, I'm just like, yo, God, please. Like, please just let me have a smooth 2023. Like, no drama. No drama. But even if, like, in the midst of it, I'm not going to be exempt for any of the pain and the trials. And I'm always going to be healing. I'm always going to be grieving. It's just going to look differently. I'm not going to settle in the pain and in the disappointment and in the grief. But I'm going to allow it to help repurpose my pain into gaining healthy relationships now. Now I know, now I can see, yo, like I done been through the trenches. Now I'm like, oh, I'm peeping BS a mile away. I'm peeping this is what I've experienced. I don't want to do that again. I've seen the red flags. Let me not fall back into that. And I'm allowing God to utilize each L, and I'm turning them into lessons. Like, that's what really God does. And honestly, like, I'm still blessed. Like, I'm not going to cry over or, hold myself back thinking like, oh, well, I keep running into the toxic cycles of, not being in successful and healthy relationships. So, I might as well just, spin the block. We love to spin a block, child. Even though I'm not really in the spin the block ministry, but we'll end up doing that because it's comfortable, because we've had history, because we are scared of the unknown. And I just believe that God is trying to do something new. God is calling us to break free so that we can experience real freedom living and just trusting Him with the unknown, and so that He can recreate healthy history. Okay? Because I'm not saying all history is unhealthy, but you guys know deep down the ones, the person, the place, the thing, the habit, the location, the one that is unhealthy for you. And you literally keep it along, you stay attached to it because you're loyal to it. And I want us to be free and creating boundaries for ourselves so that we are not staying in bondage. Okay? So that is really the charge, right, for wrapping up this year and going into 2023. I'm telling you, the only reason why I can speak on this now is because I'm really starting to experience and see the fullness of God in where He has me, right? When it was coming towards like what I've experienced this year with the new transitions, right? Of my new job, my new home, and I see Him and new people in my life, right? New friendships, connections that I've had where I'm like, wow, God, I'm now starting to see a glimpse, just a glimpse. And just to know that that's just a glimpse and I don't even have the full experience yet, because eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, right? What the Lord has, what He has prepared for me, what He has in store for me. And it's a beautiful reminder to know that I'm now slowly putting into practice of cutting off, creating boundaries of things that just because I've had history with you, just because I had history with it, and if it's no longer serving me and helping me and healing me, and it's causing distraction, and it's causing more pain, it's causing me to be stagnant, I'm going to have to put that boundary up. I'm going to have to put that fence up so that I'm not blocking the blessings that God has for me. So I pray that whoever is listening to this podcast today can just get free. Get free. Create boundaries and free yourself from the bondage of things that are keeping you from experience God's best. So if this podcast episode has blessed you, you know what to do. Don't be selfish, y'all. Share the podcast. Share it, send it, through text, through email, wherever. Share this and take heed to it, man. Take heed to it. And I'm excited to see what God is going to do, what new thing He's going to do in 2023. We have to be optimistic. Listen, I am a really optimistic person, but I should not be as optimistic because of the hell that I went through within the last, honestly, 3 years of my life consecutively. But I am just hopeful now that I know, like, my expectations aren't crazy. I'm already having my heart's posture ready to receive all that God has for me. And I believe, like, He is ready to give us more, but we have to be ready to release some of the things that are holding us back. We have to release the old so that He can bring in the new and do a new thing in us. So yes, share the podcast. Thank you for all your love and support, honestly, throughout this year with the Listen Up with Jess podcast. I know that you guys have been listening up, and I'm thankful that you guys have extended your grace and your support and patience with me throughout this season 5. I do believe each episode that I did post this year was very heartfelt and intentional and impactful, and I pray that it touched you as well. Take time to go back and listen up to some old episodes. We'll probably be doing some dropping some rewind episodes for you guys. But thank you again for just an amazing year, and continue to support this platform. Share it. Make sure that you guys are leaving me reviews. If you be so kind, please leave a review and a rating on the podcast for Apple. I need to get my reviews up on Spotify too. So if you are listening up on Spotify, hook your girl up, share, give a review, give a rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And we will be back in 2023 with another season of Listen Up with Jess, God willing. Love you guys. Stay safe. Stay humble. Bye.